I started this project a couple weeks ago, and then uh, kind of I kind of gotten injured, and it stalled for a short time, and then late last week I started feeling better, so I started getting back into doing some stuff. So this is actually a third edit on a project, and this is probably going to be the final edit, final massive edit. There'll probably be a couple more small ones, but this will probably be the final massive rewrite as far as adding and making big alterations to the story. So, what I was doing was creating a fake history for my address for my home, and my intentions are to put we have it's a busy street. We got people walking by out there all the time. So my intentions are to put one of those historical placards out there, this is an old house too. I mean, it's an old house, so so it kind of it kind of lends itself to I've been around here for a while, but definitely some made up stuff about it here. So my intentions are to create a kind of a fake history for this historic placard that'll go out there by the sidewalk. So when people walk by, there'll be a couple paragraphs about made up paragraphs about this place that it. I'm trying to blend it with some things that really happened, and the reality and the origin of the area, the origin of how this region was developed, and how Europeans got to be here, and this, that, and the other. So I'm trying to read a little bit of the reality with some made up stuff. That way it sounds a little bit. That way it sounds. I guess to lend credence to its legitimacy. So you add some real facts into with some made up stuff just to add some legitimacy that's not really there. So I mean, the reality is somewhere around here, this had to have happened. I'm guessing something of the nature had to have happened. So it's not like it's not true in a way. Was this the actual site? Probably not. Did it happen when and how I said it did? Probably not exactly, but those are all things that you take a little bit of a little bit of that. I guess that what do you talk the imaginative stuff with the reality. I guess so. So I made up this fake history about the location, and it's mixed in with the story of LaSalle and his arrival up the St. Joseph River to what we call Council Oak, right up the street from me here. And these are all real facts. These are things that happened. The folks that lived here before Europeans got here, they were meeting at this location evidently before, even before then. So uh, whenever the Europeans started showing up, it was and they wanted to meet and talk about trade or whatever it was that they talked about with LaSalle. I don't know what they would have talked about back then, but I'm guessing trade of some type, right? But the council was evidently a common place for leadership to get together over there. So that was that's all kind of got some truth behind it, or at least the it's a story that the city buys into and is selling anyway. I mean, maybe they're making shit up too. Who knows? You know how that goes. Stories sell. So they could be making that up too. They just found an old tree and it was like Council Oak. There's not even a tree there now. It's just a location. I don't know if there was a tree there before. I don't know. Anyway, that's what they call it. That's what they call the neighborhoods too. Right up the street here from me too is Council Oak. So this is the Council Oak area, and I I kind of mixed into that, and then the that was how this story starts, and then it kind of breaks away with Pierre Navarre and his opening of his trade post up around what we now call Lieber Park, which is quite a ways from here. I mean, you could ride a horse there, I guess, from back in the day, or they probably had roads and trails and that type of walk paths. You could walk there. It takes some time though. We ride our bikes there from time to time from here. It's a nice little ride. Take you a couple hours to get there and back. Go hang out there for a little bit. So uh, it's it's a little trek from here. But yeah, we that so that part of that's real too. So the how we get started and how we kind of get broken away is real. And then I had also added a little bit of information about previous owners and like the origin of this particular house, the building that's here now. But my knowledge was kind of limited, and so uh, the wife had actually gone to the library and dug around in old stuff, so to find out a little bit about who was here and some other things. So I got she gave me some information into her notes there. So I'm gonna see if I can't do some corrections here on that side of it. I think the first part, I'm gonna probably just leave that as it is for now, for the most part. Where the initial part where we're here with, I'm looking for that second part uh, after the house was built. I don't even have the original builder's name correct. So that was I didn't have it right. I knew one guy's name that had one family's name that owned the house for quite some time, but I didn't know any other information, a whole lot of information. So I got some blanks filled in there, and I think that I can go back through that part of it and maybe again blend a little bit of the reality, like the real names, and maybe make a little bit about them. Maybe just add a little bit of uh, personalization to the families or something. I don't know, but the I think that yeah, uh, yeah, I'm not sure here. I think I need to add something to that or correct what I did there, and I think that's what I'm going to do now. And I just wasted like the first 10 minutes doing nothing but jabbering about stuff I already did. So um, now the story is I'm going to pull up a couple of pictures here, and so the story here is kind of wrapped around this pile of stones here, which this actually was taken a few years ago. This image here, so there's less of it now than there. Actually, much less. This entire top tier is now gone, and a good part of this front has collapsed. The mortar each winter it just it's rotten, and more of it comes down, and I kind of help it. If it's loose, I kind of push it off. We got grandkids that run around back there, and as much as you tell them, please don't climb on the pile of rocks, never stops them from doing so. So it's like a challenge. Oh, let's go climb on the rock pile. They said not to. But yeah, you can see the morning glories. I put a pole up the middle of it, buried a pole so that the morning glories had a place to go way up there. There's a lantern that actually glows at night. That little lantern. It's got a solar. It might not so well with all those morning glories all over it, but it's got a solar light in it, so it glows at night up there. Kind of fun. Also had a clock up there at one time. I've done some different things up there. But that's all kind of come apart now. I won't actually hold any the weight of the pole anymore. The pole, because enough of the rock is corroded. Um, it just won't hold that kind of weight anymore, so I can't do that to it anymore. But yeah, this is kind of what it's centered around. Is this thing right here? Uh, it's it's a it's a barbecue, and this is what this story is centered around. And you can see that I've kind of turned it more into like a flower pot, a big flower pot. Although the flowers don't grow so good in the front, I'm going to dig all that out and change it this year, so makes that better. I've also got, but it matches the house. It's made of the same. Here's the house. So yeah, it matches the house. You got the barbecue is made of pretty much the same river rock as the house. But that's kind of what the story is kind of centered around, is this thing that's in my backyard. Uh, uh, One of the previous owner from years ago that was here for quite some time actually built that barbecue there. And when we bought the place, the thing was just, it was in disrepair. Uh, it was it was already rotten, falling apart. The tile that goes up in it and everything had collapsed into itself, and all this, yeah, everything's just loose and coming apart. So it was just kind of dangerous, is what it really comes down to. Things always been kind of dangerous back there. Pile of rocks that are kind of coming collapsing on itself. Kids want to run around on it, and that's kind of what happens. But this is actually taken a few years ago. It's in much worse condition now. It's all buried in snow now. Otherwise, I'd go out and get a picture, but the snow's kind of deep right now. Get me a recent picture, or you'll get me a picture of it now and put it out there. But I use some old pictures, because it's the same thing. It's just, you know, 6 7 years ago instead of today. When I was putting that pole in, it was quite some time ago. But I got a vegetable and flower garden right there. It kind of blends right into it because I just put flowers into it now. So it's just been there, and that's what we do with it. But that's kind of what this story is centered around. So there's some aspects to this that I can lend credence to, physical things and this, that, and the other. It's Is it true or not? That's always the. Is it true? I know. No, not really. But it's fun. So I'm just gonna go through and read it as it is for the moment, and I'll stop here at the bottom where I put these extra notes in, and then I'll see if I can't go back and figure out how those notes blend into the bottom here. And I think I'm gonna change this guy's name so it's not so obviously fake, but I'm going to try and keep it in this area somehow. So I'll probably make some changes here, some small changes eventually. But this is not. This is one of my minor beefs. The name is definitely so fakey sounding. It says Chin Labs, established in 1681 by French explorer Louvin de Lemour. Yeah, it sounds so fake, doesn't it? I need to. I'm gonna make some alterations to that one. Do some find and replaces and make that a little less fakey. French explorer Lovin de la Mort, a member of Robert de La Salle's second expedition up the St. Joseph River. La Salle returned to negotiate at Council Oak. La Salle had returned to negotiate. Come on. Or you could just say when. Oop, dang it. When LaSalle returned to negotiate at Council Oak. Lovin de la Mort set up camp at this location to establish La Chinlave, or the Washed Oak. The team of explorers had come to establish trade. Lovin de la Mort joined to open up the region's first bistrot. Bistrot is evidently a small neighborhood bistro. Okay, I just found it fun. I said brothel originally there, but bistrot makes sense. He built an enormous stone oven for cooking that became a social nexus for decades to come. So that is the rock pile that we're referring to back there. The origin of that rock pile. That stone oven built by Lavin de la Mort for his the first bistrot open in the area. And that is a bunch of bullshit there. Now, LaSalle did come here in 1681 and to negotiate at Council Oak. So that did happen. But I don't know that there was some dude that opened up a little tavern here on this spot. It could have happened. Probably not, though, right? So it became the stone oven for cooking that became a social nexus for decades to come. In 1691, that's quite a leap there from, that's like, no, that's only 10 years. 1691, Fort St. Joseph was built. The fort traded hands a few times, then closed in 1795. All right, there's a jump. There's 100 years. La Chin Lave began as nothing more than a tiny impromptu cabin, but that large stone oven kept visitors coming for miles for heat and delicious cooking. It remained open in spite of Lovin de la Mort's passing and the turmoil of the time. La Chaîne Levée quickly became a favorite location of locals as Council Oak was a traditional meeting spot for leadership of the local communities. Okay, so that fills a nice gap between there and that 100 years there. I think that fills that in, and then we jump up here another 30 years or so where Pierre Navarre opens the first trade post known in what is known as Leaper Park, moving trade a bit south. By the time South Bend was founded in 1865, La Chin Lave had become abandoned. The location had become farmland. The stone oven, all that remained, left to crumble into a heap. South Bend was becoming an industrial boomtown when the four-square Field Rock home currently on site was built in 1920. It was the first home built in the Council Oak neighborhoods. The neighboring homes were built in the 40s and 50s. Let me see. As Field Rock was needed in the construction of the home, the pile of stones was made up. The oven was left. Was the rest? What the pile of stones that once made up the oven was left to rest where it lay. Harold Johnson, the original owner. That's wrong. I gotta fix that there. That's somebody else. Can't remember his name though. Again, I know it's not him though. He says this is our major player though. Harold Johnson owned this place longer than anybody else. Like he lived here his whole life, pretty much. So the original owner said that there's a story told for every stone in that heap. Harold used the stones from the heap to rebuild a barbecue. The enormous grill was said to burn through a cord of wood an hour at the Johnsons' many lavish parties. Harold was known to be a skilled horseshoe pitcher. Now, I do believe that Harold Johnson is the guy that built that thing. And I have unearthed horseshoes back there. and I believe that they were not the kind that actually go on the horse. I think they were like pitching shoes. Although they probably had horses here at some point in time because the place was literally built in 1920. That's true too. Uh, it was built in 1920, but not by Harold Johnson. It was somebody else. Harold Johnson didn't buy it till later. Let me see. So Harold Johnson was known to be a skilled horseshoe pitcher, which is possible because there was horseshoes back there, right next to that, right next to the barbecue. Like if you could imagine if they were having barbecues and parties back there, they might have had a horseshoe pit to chuck horseshoes, because like old dudes did that at one time, you know. So I just imagine that he did that. All right, so requiring a lot of upkeep and a large amount of fuel to operate, the barbecue fell into disrepair soon after Harold passed. Today, the crumbling barbecue is seeded with all types of flowers to climb the rocks. Morning glory engulfs the heap each fall. And that's kind of what you see there now. It's lots of flowers. It's engulfed. The name of the private residence has been updated to Chin Labs. Chin Labs derived from Chad and Jen Chen, the current owners, with a tip of the hat to Levin de Lamour's La Chin Lave. The pile of stone seamlessly blends into the Chin Lab's vegetable and flower gardens. The stones are still collecting stories. All right, so I'm going to leave that kind of wraps up the end of it there pretty well, because we do call this place Chin Labs indeed. That blend of Chad and Jen. So we called it that for quite some time, and uh, Chin Lave does mean the washed oak. At least that's what the translator told me anyway. I mean, somebody that's French may look at it and be like, it may just say dumb American for all I know. But yeah, that's what it told me anyway. So I think I'm going to keep that, and it kind of lends itself. But I'm going to change Love and De l'Amour to something uh, probably still Frenchy sounding, but not quite so obviously fakey sounding. But I need to update this area here uh, where it was built, because it was built in 1920. So South Bend was becoming industrial boomtown. The four-scale rock home currently on site, built in 1920. It was the first home built in the Council Oaks neighborhoods. The neighboring homes were built in the 40s and 50s. So that's okay. That's kind of that's there's truth to that. I don't think that our neighbors' homes were. If I say 40s and 50s, I think I think that's pretty accurate. I can't remember. I think it's like 45 or something like that when it was whenever the next house was built next to us, right? On our south side, right south of us here, and the next one was built like within the next few years. So uh, they started the neighborhood started to develop in that time frame. Let me see. As field rock was needed to construct the home, the pile of stone once made up the oven was left to rest where it lay. Harold Johnson is wrong. The original owner was Arthur Sisme. So I'm going to change that. Arthur Sisme. Let me see. I'm gonna save that for Harold Johnson there for this bottom. So I'm gonna separate this next phrase off here. Come on, give me a there we go. Move it. So let's move this down a little bit. So now, as the field rock was needed for the pile of stones that once made up the oven was left to rest where it lay, Arthur Sisme, the original owner, uh, expressed interest in resurrecting the stone oven. And let me see. See, okay, so a guy named R. Johnson bought the place in 1945, and then a guy named Harold Johnson bought it in 53. So like it's like a dad bought it, and then his son bought it from his dad less than a decade later. So, but Harold Johnson had the place from 53 to 2012, or at least it was in his name. I think that Harold actually died like in the 90s or something, but his wife had lived here until 2012 at least, whenever they finally sold the place, and she went to live with one of her kids, I think. But there was a couple of short term owners before we got the place, like a house flipper and uh, who wound up and got stuck with a bunch of storm damage repair. There was a bunch of trees here, evidently, whenever the Johnson's, because Harold had died and left his wife. I can't remember her name, and it's not written on here, but he left his wife here, and she kind of let things grow up a little bit around the house. Evidently, you couldn't even see the house from the street at some point, but there was whole lines of pine trees going up either side of it. At some point in time, there was a storm that blew through and just destroyed all the trees that were back here. And it was after she had been sold the house, and before we got it. So it was this house flipper that wound up with all the storm damage. So we lucked out. We didn't get this place with all those trees. There's no more trees right up here against the house anymore now because of that. But evidently that house flipper, he bought it from her thinking he was going to make some money, and wound up and got hosed with a bunch of storm damage. I'm guessing that the insurance probably took care of a lot of that stuff for him. I would imagine. I don't know how that would work, but there would be a lot. There was a lot of, evidently there was a, based on what the neighbors had told me, there was a lot of tree damage here on the property. So, and that was but I'm not going to add the house flipper into this particular thing here. I want the big steps. The guy that built it, Arthur and Mary Sisme, the original owners, and then I'm going to make the big leap and just say Harold Johnson bought it in 1945. We're going to skip Robert, because Robert was less than a decade, and I would guess that Harold probably lived here if it was a son, right? So I'm gonna make sure to put that into here, add that into here. See, so I'm trying to make that jump from the original owner to Harold at this point. What was your year again? 1945. Yeah. Okay, so Harold Johnson bought the home in 1945. It's me see. All right, so I made that leap. Harold Johnson bought the home in 1945. He immediately went to work cleaning up a pile of stone. Harold said, "There was a story told for every stone in that heap." Harold used the stones from the heap. I've said heap too many times now. I'm just gonna get rid of that. Used the stones to rebuild, to build, because it was a. I said oven first. I'm going to say build a massive barbecue. The enormous grill was said to burn through a quart of wood an hour at the Johnson's many lavish parties. Harold was known to be a skilled horseshoe pitcher. So that takes care. I mean, that kind of takes care of that. It makes that jump from the original owner to the people who had this house longer than pretty much anybody. Harold Johnson lived here from 1945 till his wife died, or well actually died recently, but she they're both buried I believe right up the road here now. But he died some time ago though. But she lived here for some time after he was gone. So and there was a couple of house flippers or people who had it for a short time before we got a hold of it, and we'll probably be here until I don't know. We can't go up and down these steep steps anymore. Old houses have steep steps. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but old houses have steep, narrow steps and low ceilings too. We got low ceilings, which is kind of nice for heat. So I could add something a little something about Arthur Sismy up here. All right, and I really don't know anything about Arthur. Let's see if I have any notes. I could say the. Let's see. The original address was 2159, but it was updated to 2151 as the neighborhood began to develop in 1947. All right, so there's like a little side note 2159 to 2151. That's kind of an interesting thing that they had to, if you ever do some history on, you got an old house, you ever do some digging, and you have a hard time figuring out what happened. And it's like, when was this thing built? I mean, whenever the wife was looking for this, well, I mean, the address had changed. So you had to go find that original address to find more information about the particular title owners and things like that. If you wanted, if you, so you had to know that. If you wanted to know who the original title owner was, you had to know that in 1947 something happened to the address because now it's a different address. So she went and looked at. She went and figured all that out though. That was not me. You gotta have people smarter than you around you. Kind of helps you look smart. You have people smarter than you around you, right? All right. So here we are. I got a line about the address change. I feel like I could add something about uh, Arthur in here. Um, Let me see. I, one of these guys worked for Bendix, but I think that was Harold Johnson. Most of the stuff I know about, and most of the stuff you see and find around the house, like things in the attic and things out in the garage that are kind of like lost in spaces and corners, you see Harold Johnson's name on things around here because he was here for so long. The Johnson's names. Let's see. I think he worked at Bendix. When was Bendix in South Bend? All right. Well, all right. Okay, Arthur was an engineer for Bendix who was making brakes for GM at that time. What was their first product? The Bendix company. It was founded in 1919. Brake drums. Brake drums. I'm just going to put brake drums at that time. Arthur was an engineer for Bendix who was making brake drums at that time. I mean, that is a possibility. I don't know where Arthur worked. Uh, there was a lot of stuff happening in South Bend at that time. So it was kind of things were growing around here. I think Studebaker was a thing. The Plow people, Oliver Plow, was still around at that time. He has a house around here. Still has a house downtown. Big, great, big. It's also a stone house too. Big stone house. Great, great, big stone mansion. Actually, it's you could fit like 10 of our houses inside his stone house. It's pretty. It's a good size house. Let's see. Yeah, there's a handful of things going on at that time, so it's hard to know what he was doing. But it kind of adds a little bit of something to it. I mean, author somebody I think Johnson actually worked for Bendix. Uh, I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's who worked for Bendix because we actually find some milled pieces around here from him. I got milled metal bits and pieces from him around here. Fairly certain it came from that's where it came from. Is he was probably working at Bendix and probably bought pieces home to mess with, and that's where these that's where the little bits and pieces come from. Is probably from there. Where else is it going to come from? So that's all right. We'll leave that there. I don't really have any information about Sisme, so Arthur Sisme. So I got to add Arthur. I need to add. He never. He. I gotta take this guy's name. And put it right here. It's got those weird things in it. Resurrecting. He did not get around to resurrecting Levin de Lamour's oven. All right, I think that makes a nice jump now. So, as the field rock was needed to construct the home, the pile of stones that once made up the oven was left to rest where it lay. Arthur Sisme, the original owner, I need to put a comma there, expressed interest in resurrecting the stone of it. The original address was 2159 of the home was 2159, but it was updated to 2151 as the neighborhood began to develop in 1947. Arthur was an engineer for Bendix who was making brake drums at that time. Who was making brake drums in the early I'm just gonna say in 1947. 20. He did not get around to resurrecting Lovin de Lamore's stone oven. Harold Johnson bought the home in 1945. He immediately went to work cleaning up the pile of stone. Harold said there was a story told for every stone in that heap. Harold used, let me see, I want to say he because that was three times in a row. He used the stones to build a massive barbecue. The enormous grill was said to burn through a quart of wood an hour at the Johnsons' many lavish parties. I'm going to say a lavish backyard. Harold was known to be a skilled horseshoe pitcher. Requiring a lot of upkeep and large amount of fuel to operate, the barbecue fell into disrepair soon after Harold passed. Today, the crumbling barbecue is seeded with all types of flowers to climb the rocks. Morning glory engulfs the heap each fall. The name of the private residence has been updated to Chin Labs. Chin Labs derived from Chad and Jen Chen, the current owners, with a tip of the hat to Lovin de Lamore's La Chin Lave. The pile of stone seamlessly blends at the Chin Labs vegetable and flower garden. The stone are still collecting stories. All right. So I think that I was able to sort out uh, the area there that I was really looking to sort out on that. All right. So yeah. Okay. All right. So I think I was able to sort that out. That was fairly simple there. I just really wanted to beef up the history a little bit and get the names a little bit more spot on. Um, I mean, oh, this is all public record stuff, so it's not like you're hiding anything from anybody. I mean, we went to the library and got this information for God's sakes. You know, that's where it came from. So, not all of it, of course. I made some up. So if somebody went to the library and started looking for Lovin de Lamore or whoever I change his name to eventually, then yeah. So I don't know. I'll probably change the name Lovin de Lamore to something else, less fake sounding, and I think that that will probably pretty well wrap this part of it up. Once I make a decision on what to do with that, I'll go through it one more time, one more read, make some adjustments because there's always things that sound a little better if you after you hear it a couple times. You're like, I could be like this and sound a little better. No, I go through and do some small edits to it, and then I got to make a what do you call it? The copyright, is that what they call it? The little the little short version of it, the one little sentence, the synopsis, the summary. I don't know. You call it what you want to make, what you call it, but make that version that would fit on the plaque. Because like this is the full version. You create the full story or as much of the story as you need to that then you whittle it down because there's no way this is all fitting on the plaque. So and then I'll put a QR code on the plaque. That way you can get the full story. and I'll make some. I'll put some images and some bullshit. Maybe I'll make a little video, and that's what you'll click to as a video story. A little read of the whole story with some images and stuff underlying it. Some really basic, but yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, you could go get pictures of like from the historic stuff and then add it into there for the back. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. So I mean, that's kind of like stuff that's kind of where this is headed as a project. It'll be a video project that kind of tells a story, and I'll steal some images from online to create some. This was Council Oak and LaSalle meeting with these people. I bet there's all types of stuff about that out there. Easy to find imagery. So, and Navarre, his trading. I bet there's stuff about that. Early South Bend. You take some pictures and throw that in there. I mean, as you know, as you talk about these things, growing up in there, industrial life, blah blah blah, Bendix, a picture of some brake drums. It's just dumb shit. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop because this is all stuff for another day. But this is all stuff, but it's headed that way though. Now that I got the whole story, now you go and get your imagery and then put your imagery together to go with the big story, and then you create the video. Then I'll create the video to go along with that, and I got to make the summary of this. It's got to fit on a plaque, and I really don't want to print 30 different pieces to make this plaque. But it's fairly simple to make print a flat piece with raised letterings with a 3D printer. So to make and there's a lot of different string out there. Some coppery string. You get some coppery string and then print the letter the last layers of the lettering and stuff black, so it's contrast. It's real easy to do, so it really doesn't take much. But to make it very big, you're gonna have to split it up across several prints, and then put it back together on something. And try to. I'm gonna try to make it no more than 4 prints if I can. I feel like any more than that is just an excessive amount of size. So that will limit the amount of text that can go on there reasonably. And but that's all got to be. I'll sort that out on another day. I'll have to come up with the blank plaque, size it to the size that I actually think it needs to be out there on the pole, which is going to really uh, dictate, because then you got to print everything at I don't know, maybe an 18 point, maybe a little bit bigger, 22 point possibly. And definitely bigger than 12 because you want to be able to stand back from the sidewalk. It's 3 or 4 foot back. You want to be able to stand 3 or 4 foot back from it to the pole that it will be mounted onto, and be able to see it that way. I'm gonna get a couple spotlights because I got these. Because I got lots of LEDs, so we're gonna come. I'm gonna install some spotlights. Oh, the dumbness. I do nothing but dumbness. That's all there is to it. So yeah, that's kind of the path it's going to. There'll be a whole story made from what we basically got right here, right now, and then a shortened version of it that will fit on a plaque out there. And then, I, you know, I, I wish there was a way I could track. I'm sure that there was a way I could put up a website and I could track visits and actually see when people look at it and watch the video. YouTube kind of shows you how many and how much time they're watching for, but the reality is I'm not guessing that too many people is going to click on the big story. I'm gonna guess that they're going to see the little story there and be like, "What the fuck are these guys doing? Uh, what am I doing? I'm entertaining myself by screwing with you. I'm gonna let you decide to believe or whether or not that's true or not." Oh God, so dumb. And, and I figured I would do this because there could be like a connected thing to story behind. Yeah, here we are writing the bullshit into the reality, mixing it, right? It's kind of what you do. You kind of sprinkle a little of the bullshit into the reality, and it kind of helps lend a little bit of validity to the story. That's why putting something like Love and De L'Amour in there just kind of just it just kills it because it's so lame. So I'll fix that and make it sound a little less silly, and that'll uh, that'll help. So, but most of the other stuff I think is right where I want it to be. I think I got what I wanted out of tonight. So I'm gonna leave it there. What I got? I got an hour. I spent an hour, wasted probably half of that jabbering for sure. So yeah, I think I got what I need out of this. All right. Yeah. I'll probably pop it up again whenever I move on to the next phase. That you know, like I said, I think the next phase will be to there'll be some minor edits. I don't know about the minor edits. I'll probably just work my way through that just because it'll be quick and easy. Once you figure that out, it's just a find and replace feature there. You know, because you're talking about just changing a couple names and going through and changing some minor wording. The story is what it is now, so I don't think that I'm going to change anything about that. So if there's any edits, it's just in flow at this point, and to make sure it doesn't sound like I don't know anything about English at all. I mean, I don't clearly because you see what I just wrote there, but try to make it less so obvious, I guess, less obvious. Anyway, so I'll be doing edits for that, and that's about it here to wrap that up, and then I will have to do some work 3D modeling, and I'll probably do that next because um, it's a major step for one, and uh, it really kind of that's kind of it's really going to dictate how much I because visually I'm sure that there's ways that I could like take the numbers from 22 point because that is a measurement that you can translate to millimeters and then decide how many millimeters of space your text is going to take. Somebody out there that does does all that stuff all the time could probably do it pretty quick, but I would waste so much time with that. It's so much easier for me just to make the thing the size roughly that I want it to be, and then I'll go through and do some edits on the text, see how it fits. Oh, I could add more. Well, let's add a little more detail. Let's go back and add a little bit more. Oh, I got to take a bunch off. Okay, well, let's take a bunch off again. Back to the drawing board, you know. So I think that I'll probably come to the. I'll probably come to the final product quicker by uh, having the, the 3D model ready, so I can just drop text into its space and see what it looks like and see how much space I got and how it looks on there. That's probably the best way to go about it. So that's what I'm going to go and do next. And whenever I get ready to do that, I'll plop this back up and play with some 3D models, get those cleaned up, get them all blanked off. I downloaded some already, so I'm just going to pop one open and make a choice on which model to go to, get it sized and get it cleaned up and ready for new text, and that'll be it. So uh, it should be pretty straightforward, I think. Once we get going here, I mean, it's not a really big deal here what we're doing, but it should be kind of funny too. I mean, hopefully, whenever this is all printed out, it'll look real good. It'll look like, hopefully, it'll look like what I want it to look like. It'll look like the uh, it'll look like what I want it to look like, and I'll be able to put that out there. People will just be like, "Is this for real?" Like I said, if you put some stuff in there that is easy to look up, then it shouldn't be that big a deal. I mean, LaSalle is real easy to look up. Navarre is real easy to look up. There's certain things about the house that are real easy to look up. So the only thing it's really not ever really going to look up is this other person's name, and I don't know. There'll be some pictures in there and stuff. Like I said, the only way to really know if anybody looks is if YouTube does track some stuff. So we'll see. Probably nobody going to look at it. All right.